Temple University Professor of Law and Politics, Susan Sullivan, joins me now from Philadelphia. Susan, thanks so much for coming on the show. This is, of course, the very beginning of the trial. Were there any surprises to come out of today?
I don't know that there were surprises. I think people they've moved past the absolute shock that a former president is in a criminal court in New York. That's almost become commonplace now. There are 3 other criminal trials, but what we saw really with the opening was the prosecution and the defense laying out the groundwork. The prosecution in a very reserved, organized fashion, putting the bricks in place to build the tower for the prosecution. The defense, I think, unsurprisingly, as expected, more feisty, more theatrical, but both sides basically setting out the roadmap for what we're going to see over the next several weeks.
So how strong is the prosecution case then, in your view?
Well, in my view, I think they've got a bit of an uphill battle. It's not an easy case. This case has everything. It's got money and power and richness and sex and crime and politics. It's just this whole mishmash. But what it really boils down to is whether or not the money that was paid to Stormy Daniels so that she would not go public with her allegations about an affair, whether that money was falsely represented on 34 different documents. So really, this is all about the documents. I think there are problems here, first of all, for a number of reasons. I don't mean to downplay $130,000. It's a lot of money. That was the money that was paid to Ms. Daniels. But to Donald Trump, that's not a lot of money. The defense is going to argue, look, he wasn't involved in these minor details, and it seems somewhat credible that Donald Trump wouldn't really be paying that much attention to how that money was being recorded. He was certainly aware that this money was being paid to Ms. Daniels so that she wouldn't go public with her allegations. He was certainly aware of that. But was he really involved? Did he have enough knowledge for this to be criminal conduct? You only have to convince one person out of 12, but that wasn't the case, and you have an acquittal. So I think they have a bit of an uphill battle here.
Okay, and there's been so much speculation about whether or not Trump himself will testify. What's your money on?
Oh dear, well, I'm not a gambling person. I think it really is 50-50. I'm not trying to just back out of that. But I will say this, as a lawyer, if he were my client, I wouldn't put him anywhere near the stand for a number of reasons. Number one, Trump he's used to having a lot of attention. He's used to being unguarded. He tends to go off script. I think if you put him on the stand, he would go off on all sorts of subjects and possibly say things that would be incriminating. On that same note, if he should say anything that is subsequently discovered not to be true, that would be perjury. That is another crime that would be added to this. And also, if you take the stand, the prosecution, of course, then has the opportunity to cross-examine you. And they would be ferocious. They would come at Donald Trump ferociously. And as he's answering questions and as he makes a statement, if he mentions anything that he mentions, the prosecution are then allowed to ask questions about. They have a limited area that they can typically ask questions on cross-examination. But if you open the door by mentioning something, then it's fair game. So I wouldn't put him on the stand. I don't know whether Trump can resist taking the stand and the spotlight, but it's anybody's guess at the moment.
All right, Susan Sullivan, we will have to wait and see on that count. Thank you so much for joining us.